What's going on, YouTube? We're here with another Smite Trash or Pass. This time we're doing Manakin Scepter Sylvanus. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'd like to change up the format of how I did this from last time. Last time I put up all the items, I kind of explained where I think the pros and cons are with very detailed items and kind of tried to plan it out a little more. I want this to be more of a stream of conscious because it's supposed to be an impression type a video. It's more of like, do I think this is a playable build or do I think this is trash build? Like, is it trash or is it pass? Now with this build, I think the big strength comes from its early game pressure. So in these clips I had a lot of first blood. I don't know if I'm including all of them. I know I'm including the Nike, where I get just super early first bloods. It's because I can kill all the minions. I can get like an immediate level advantage, and then I can kind of put on pressure. Now, in the very first attempt at this build, I was thinking, well, maybe I can build a supporty-esque Sylvanus build, and then still go for Manakin Scepter and just get the Manakin Scepter as a value farming item and just sell it later. However, I realize this now to be an error in thinking. So the way that I believe Sylvanus should be built is probably more of a cooldown oriented build. In the solo lane especially, you're just counter building, you're trying to get cooldowns because you're trying to maximize pressure, damage, and farming without necessarily buying damage items. You don't want to go all in on attack speed, you don't want to go all in on power and think that these are the things that are going to help you win the game. I mean, you're playing solo lane, you're literally trying to get an advantage, push the advantage, and then generate a win from just coming into fights and being significantly ahead of the opposing solo laner. So you can jump into the back lines, you can get kills, you can do these things. And in Sylvanus's case, he can't jump into the back line. Now you can buy a blink and you can get to the back line that way. However, you can also root and grab people or provide knock up in form of your ult and use these to disrupt the fights and play it still like a warrior. So in a traditional warrior sense, you might not be building a bunch of damaging items, you might be building a lot of bruiser items. Unfortunately, being magic based, you don't get a lot of selection whenever it comes to bruiser items. There's no magic based shifter shield, there's no magic based, frostbound hammer, or like items that give you just a bunch of like stats for not a lot of cost. I mean, there's very efficient magic items. I don't want to mislead anyone saying like magic sucks, but like I would say as far as being a bruiser or playing like a warrior, it's definitely catered to physical characters, and that makes sense. I mean, that's how the game was created, or that's how the meta is being played out. And in order to compensate for the way this meta is being played out, I think we need to emphasize cooldowns. You see gods like Athena who doesn't have any level up built-in cooldown reduction, and what I mean by this is like whenever you level up an ability, you reduce the cooldown of the ability. Now Sylvanus also has this issue, except for on his third ability, his grab. I think it starts at an 18-second or 17-second cooldown, and then it eventually comes down to like 12 or 13 seconds. This is going to be huge utility whenever it comes to team fights, because what we're trying to do as warriors is either get to the back lines or bring the back lines to us with Sylvanus and then kill one of the damage dealers, one of the carries on the enemy team, and then start to snowball and win a team fight. I definitely, after playing 10 plus games with Manakin Scepter Sylvanus, I can see the shortcomings of this build. You can't build attack speed Sylvanus in like the purest form. Like, you can't build all the rings plus Toxic Blade plus Bancroft's Town and expect to do wonderful things, which is kind of unfortunate, but also really good, because you don't want Guardians to traditionally do something like this. You don't want them to be able to put excessive pressure and get super fast kills on people, and I can respect that as far as like the design and development of the character. But part of me is also kind of disappointed because I want to be able to get fed and I want to be able to get kills regardless of the character I'm using. Now, with characters like Kraken, his whole kit does damage. His entire kit is 2 stuns, a wall, and then tremors, which is just CC until you die. Now, he is probably one of the easiest gods to look at and say is broken as far as a Guardian goes, because he does so much damage and he has so much utility. But this isn't a Kraken video, so I will stop expanding on how great Kraken is. I might bring him up in another video. we might actually explore, like Fat Loki, just super damage Kraken. But that's for the future. Now we'll get back to our Manakin Scepter Sylvanus. I really think Sylvanus has a very versatile and very powerful kit whenever it comes to playing in both the solo lane and in the duo lane. I think that if you were going to play a more damage-oriented Sylvanus, which I said earlier that you can't do, if you wanted to go like pure attack speed or pure damage, I think the only appropriate place to do something like that would be in the mid lane, and you would want to probably have Manakin Scepter so you can kill all the minions. You can put excessive pressure on these low HP squishy mages in the early game and then just pressure them out. If you can put them behind, they can't carry a game, right? So you've effectively done the job of a warrior, which is kill one of the carries without doing anything but just putting them out of the game. I did this against the Kukulkan in one of the games that I unfortunately didn't record. We were playing over the weekend with some of my boys, Caleb and Will, and I was like, I'm gonna call first blood on this, and then I killed Kukulkan at the very beginning. I ended up going like 8-4 and 10 or something like that, and they surrendered at like 24 minutes. But it definitely felt a lot more powerful. I also played a game where I was using Sylvanus, Manakin Scepter in the solo lane against the Kukulkan, and in that game I felt so weak because the Kukulkan just had to build tank boots, and then I think he ended up building some sort of like Glad Shield or something like that. It could have been a Stone of Gaia, but in that situation I did feel like Sylvanus didn't belong in the solo lane, so it was very hit and miss. I played 10 games. I think I ended up going 7-3. We ended up winning against the Kukulkan. It was a very boring game. I went like 0-2-10, where I essentially just ignored the Kukulkan. We just played passive, tried to keep them in lane, and then get together in team fights, and my presence was a little more valuable than Kukulkan's presence. He has knock up, he has a root. He has a lot of things in his kit, both in his regular form and whenever he transforms. If he's just being a dude and just anti-healing people and knocking them up with his ultimate, he doesn't really have a huge impact on fights, besides the fact that he can jump into the backline to try to get the squishies, whereas you can counter that by trying to root him or grabbing him, or you can go into their backline, because with no defenses and just tanky items, what is a mage, assassin, or hunter going to do? Now since we're in a crit meta, if you don't have your spectral mail yet, the hunter can have his way with you. But I think generally if you're doing your combo correctly, where you're doing the root, grab, knock up, your heal, dot, most of the time, as long as they're not able to sustain off of that, whether you have a Toxic Blade, a Divine Rune, a Contagion, some sort of like anti-heal, plus you're dealing damage and you're just putting pressure on everybody at the same time, seeing as all your abilities are big AoEs, even your auto attack, you're going to be a threat that the enemy team is going to have to answer. Like, the Kukulkan's going to have to come back and try to give peel. Like, if you're uninterrupted, you're going to be able to kill the mage and probably the jungler by yourself. Like I said, with the hunter and the crit meta, it's a little 50-50 right now. Like, if you've got spectral mail and you've got anti-heal, because generally they're building like Devo's Gauntlet, 3 crit items, probably another lifesteal item, you're not going to be able to deal enough damage to really like trade them. But with your 1 being able to reduce protections, your 3 being able to immobilize them, root them, plus knocking them up and doing 2 different dots to them, plus your Manakin Scepter procs, I think you would have a fighting chance. I should probably try to test this with one of the guys and just see like at what point does a hunter become too much. I think playing more and more with the build and knowing where the strengths are, or to put it better, your kill potential, you'll know exactly which fights to take and which fights you should avoid, like where you should be engaging in hunters and where you should be engaging in other targets. Now when fighting junglers, you just kind of have to look at their build. If they're playing like Mulan in the jungle, they might be using that inherent tankiness of being a warrior. to kind of carry them through the game, and they'll build like super damaging. It really depends. You just have to look at the itemization of the enemy gods. If you see somebody like a Finner who's building kind of like how I build them with shifter shields, glad shields, NCLA, stuff like that, you're probably not going to want to fight that guy, not because he can kill you, just simply for the fact it's going to take too long. Like, you don't want to be focusing on tanks until the people who are doing the most damage on the enemy team are dead. All in all, I mean, I think this build is super strong. I'm actually going to give it a pass. I think that it's really good just for the simple fact that you can put pressure on in the early game, you can kill minions, you can just hyper farm really effectively, and then if you're, if you have some game sense in the sense that you're picking these engagements correctly, or you're building correctly, I think that it's definitely very strong. It's just application based, right? I mean, you have to get definitely reps in while you're playing it. You have to know how much damage you're doing at every point of the game. I mean, it just comes with like mastery and just general feeling of the game that comes with just playing a ton of hours. I'm only like 1,500 hours into Smite. I still feel like I have a lot to learn. I mean, they change stuff up every season. You have so many new gods, you have so many patches, like, every Tuesday. And I mean, just putting in reps, like, this video could be completely irrelevant here in a few months if they nerf Manakin Scepter, or it could be the whole brand new meta if they change the way that the passive on Manakin Scepter works, and it procs off of minions. The 15 HP and 15 mana procs off of minions. Sylvanus solo lane could be the best solo lane build. I mean, if you look at who is popular right now, it's pretty much just gods who do a lot of things that can farm well. So like Kakolin, he just farms really well. He's very, like, he can dive back lines, he can deal a lot of damage, he can be in your face, he can fight 5 people at once. Like, he does so much. That's why he's so powerful right now. I mean, you think of gods like Guan Yu, he's just got a ton of utility. He's got that slow, he's got that stun, he's got protection shreds to make your squishies deal more damage. He dives in the backline with his slow, just causing a lot of chaos and disrupting team fights. I mean, it's just gods like that who are meta. So again, I'm gonna give this a pass. I think it's great. I think Sylvanus's kit's really good. I could just be biased because, like, I had some really good games with it, but like I said, my impression. Don't forget to drop a like down below, subscribe if you like the video, tell me if you like this kind of flow of consciousness type video, or if you prefer to have me break it down kind of like I did with Runeforge or Arachne. With that, I thought it was pretty cool. It was a lot of editing, a lot of recording over and over again to get everything right. But I want to hear some feedback. Thank you for watching. You can go ahead and watch the rest of this as we close out this game. This was one of the last games that I played as Sylvanus. I hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Slave.